Welcome to the U-Turn podcast. My friend, this is Ashley Stahl. I'm your host, and you are in the right place if you're ready to create a business, a career, a personal brand, or just a life that you're so proud of. And every single week, we want to support you by bringing you PhDs, subject matter experts, psychology practitioners, business leaders, all here on the show to elevate your success in business and also in life so that you can leave a legacy, you can amplify your authority, and you can really skyrocket the amount of opportunities you're creating for yourself in your career, whether you're corporate or you're a business owner. And if you are new here, again, my name is Ashley Stahl. I'm an international bestselling author of the book U-Turn, Get Unstuck, Discover Your Direction, Design Your Dream Career. And most importantly, I'm the CEO and founder of Wise Whisper Agency. I'm a top 100 TEDx speaker on the internet, and I was so inspired to create Wise Whisper and help clients craft their signature talk. We've helped hundreds of clients craft their talk, and we've also helped so many of them land spots on some of the biggest stages in the world, including the TED and TEDx stage. And so I am here on a mission to help every changemaker I know impact millions. Also, before we get into this episode, shout out to our friend Andy B. Mackin, the artist that has gifted us this sick new music for the podcast. Let's get into this week's episode. Okay, friends, obviously I'm bringing on someone very special today, and it's Eleanor Beaton. She's the founder of Safi Media, an education and coaching company for female entrepreneurs. She's really committed to advancing global gender equity through women's entrepreneurship. She's on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who scale past $1 million in revenue by 2030. And if I'm not mistaken, and Eleanor can correct me here, I'm pretty sure it's like 1 or 2% of all female entrepreneurs ever hit $1 million in a year of revenue. She also has her podcast, which I'm excited to be on. It's called the Woman Owned Podcast. Such a cool name. And she's reached millions of women around the world with that, helping them unlock their leadership, their entrepreneurial potential. And her work has been quoted everywhere, as one is the Globe, Mail, the Atlantic, CBC, all that kind of stuff. So today we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about identity. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because when am I not working on my own leadership and my own identity? Jesus, take the wheel. Eleanor, thank you for coming on the show.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be with you. And those of you listening, she came on my MacBook. I spilled on my MacBook on Friday and my video function isn't working. And so we have this weird makeshift video going on. My hair's crazy. I'm in a sports bra and we're recording the podcast. So, Eleanor, thank you for being
You're owning it.
I'm
You're
owning.
just
I am
owning
woman,
it, right?
a woman owning. Yeah.
You really are. You are a woman owning
Yeah.
right now at this point.
Okay. Obviously, I want to ask you the standard question that any podcaster would ask you is just like, what got you into leadership? Like, what got you attracted to helping people with this? Because, I meet a lot of people who are leaders, but they don't really embody leadership. That's a unique type of person that devotes them. It's almost like a portal you devote yourself to. So, talk to me a little bit about what pulled you in.
For me, it's ancestral.
Yeah.
So my mother's from the Fiji Islands, a group of islands in the South Pacific. And she grew up in a chiefly family. So when the British came over, like they did with their empire, and they went all over the world, basically conquering all kinds of cultures back when empire building was a cool thing, they would go into local cultures and they would need to find like the leader or the king. And so they went to my mom's island, which is where where our ancestors were from. And that was they were sort of like the chiefs of the chiefs. And so that's where I'm descended from. And my mom's family, so in Fijian culture, the second oldest brother would be the king. And then his older brother would be like his advisors. The oldest was like an advisor to powerful people.
Wow.
So there's a lot, we talk about things like generational memory and generational trauma, but there's also generational gifts. And I think, you'll see this sometimes with healers or people who just through the lineage of their family, they pick up certain ways of being or certain roles. So I really believe that through my lineage and sort of life, there has been a big force which has really been anchored around supporting leaders.
Mm,
Leadership is really lonely. It can be incredibly isolating. We talked in the green room about just how we need to continuously evolve our identity
yeah.
so that we can be the person capable of sustaining and driving the kind of change that we want. And when we're doing that, I think having people that we can turn to be a mirror, to be a thought partner, to be a challenger, that's kind of how I honestly feel like I got into it, because it's been like a burning thing my whole life. Just this desire to particularly empower women leaders with that kind of very practical support I think we all need on the journey.
Mm. I feel it's so funny, like you talk about ancestral, because I think that's something that's an open tab in the background of a lot of people's lives that they're not totally paying attention to or aware of the extent that your upbringing, your ancestors, what were norms in your family, what you was normalized for you. And funny fact, my 23andMe says I'm related to Marie Antoinette, which I don't know if is good news or bad news.
She was maligned. She was much
She
maligned,
was
you
kind of
know.
unwell. Like she was not the nicest. I'm like, okay, she led a revolution. Like go, kudos there.
Right?
But okay. I want to learn a little bit about your thinking around leadership. Like what do you think it really means to be a leader? Why does it matter? I think people listening right now, there's a lot of mixed messages around what it means to be a leader. So I'd just love to kind of hear your take on that.
Mm. To me, a leader is a person who has the courage to develop and express a vision and gathers the influence necessary to make that vision real.
Mm,
So it's both when we think about leadership, and I, work a lot with women, but the reality is this obviously, is for everybody. When we think about the pieces of that. So the first thing is creating a vision.
mm,
And that really requires that we are willing to see something that doesn't exist.
right.
And we're not only willing to see it, we're willing to describe it in a way that's real to get other people to buy into that vision and join us, in creating it. And then to create the influence to allow people to do that, to create
Yeah.
the financial resources required to do that. So it's really like a very multifaceted kind of thing, but it's often looks a little bit invisible. It's very intangible, but when it's not there, things quickly fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because what you said is really loaded if somebody really tunes into it. It's like come up with a vision, see something from nothing, and then gather all the resources to do it. That's easier said than done, right? Like
Totally.
I have a superstar team at my company. Like we have written hundreds of speeches, a lot of TED Talks we've helped with. We have booked a lot of people on stage, and I could not do any of this without people who are not only great at this, but I found people who I think are better than me. And
Mm,
that has taken so much time and, to be honest, a lot of pain. Like the pain of a draft makes it through to me. I want to redo it. I don't like the writer. The writer's got to go. Now I need to rewrite it myself, forget my Saturday plans because I don't want the client to see a draft that's not perfect. There was so much that went in to making sure that our product was excellent along the way of gathering the team. And I'm just at that final piece. Like I built out my sales team, and it has been a journey, Eleanor, to build out a sales team. How much of leadership is about managing people versus knowing what you need as a leader? Because the reason I ask that is like a lot of people talk to me about leadership is like you need to manage the people, spend a lot of time with the people, you got to groom the people. I love hiring people that are so talented that they don't want to be micromanaged by me.
mm,
And that is a certain type of hire. And I think if I had a belief system that had me hiring people and my beliefs told me that they needed a lot of training, a lot of work, I would go manifest that. But I have hired a
mhm,
lot of people that teach me something when they come in. I'll say to them, hey, watch my sales calls. This is how we sell our products. And they come over and they'll say, have you ever thought about doing this or this as well? And so, yeah, I think it's tough to understand like what does it really look like with team building and hiring.
mm.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your take on that.
I used to get frustrated when I would look at LinkedIn or I would read these leadership books, and I felt there was a lot of information out there for people leading large enterprises and large organizations where there's a really established hierarchy. There are very clear training budgets, like every department, 5% of their budget is earmarked for professional development training and so on, which when you think about the kind of leadership that you're talking about, and which I suspect many of the people listening to your podcast are potentially engaged in, which is building small leadership teams or building small teams inside high growth entrepreneurial types of businesses, it's a very different ball game because the pace of change is faster. There generally are not like pre-approved pathways to growth.
Mm.
So, I think
When I started this podcast, it seemed like I had to figure everything out on my own: the scripts, the setup, the filming schedule, logos. It got really overwhelming, and every day kind of seemed to introduce this new decision that I needed to answer. So that's kind of how it goes, right? When you're starting something new, it seems like your to-do list kind of grows every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. And for so many millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. Shopify really helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. You can accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with very helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography so you can get the word out, kind of like you have a marketing team behind you. So you can easily create emails, social media campaigns, whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your e-commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. So if you're ready to sell, you ready for Shopify. So turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/U-turn. Go to Shopify, shopify.com/YOUTURN, shopify.com/U-turn.
one important thing is that like as you were sharing that, what's clear to me is that you have a vision for the kind of ethos that you want your team to have. So I heard lots of initiative, very little micromanagement, high sort of collaboration at the initial levels. So
Yeah.
you're very open. You have a very clear picture of what success looks like, but you're extremely open about the how,
Yeah.
which generally requires that you hire people who are more experienced
Yes.
and who are also strategists, that they're bringing some of that know-how with them. When people choose to hire a different type in a different way, so they're hiring maybe more junior people and they are committed to training them up, so there's a huge skills transfer that has to happen. Then you do require lots of systems, tons of training, the ability to spend time. So I think it's very much about making that call. What kind of team do I want to have?
Yeah.
The problem is when you want to build one, but you actually build another.
Yeah. Tell me a little
You
bit
know?
more about that. And I love what you're saying about season, because there is a time and a place for somebody who is not seasoned and you're like, I'm going to groom this person.
Mhm.
Um, I'm more like I want a star. And I want somebody who's pretty seasoned. I've actually found with hiring, there's 3 Gs for me so far. It's been the good, the grit, and the gift. Like good
Mm.
heart. There have been a lot of not clients, employees I've had where they have a really good heart, but they don't have the gift. There's nothing
Yeah.
I can do. And I'm going to train myself into a blue face. There's people that I've had this before, and this is actually, I think, one of the most toxic things in leadership is it's the most gifted person ever, not a good heart. Like, you
Yeah.
say that, but those are one of the most cancerous people on a team, don't you think? Where you're kind of like a slave to how good they are at what they do as a business owner. You're like, oh my God, they're
Yeah.
amazing. But then you're like, they're breaking the team spirit because they're not a good person. They're not kind. They're not respectful. They're threatening other people, whatever they're doing. Um, so I've had talent where I'm like, damn, you're good, but you gotta go. Um, and right now I have somebody I love in a role who great heart, insane amount of grit. She doesn't totally have the gift, but she doesn't not. So that's where my training is with her because it's just taken me long enough to find somebody um that I like that has these three things. What do you look for in hiring, or what can you advise people to look for? Or maybe what are some interview questions that you think really help sift through people?
So I think that hiring also shifts depending on how stable your systems are.
Mm,
So, like when you have someone who's coming into a role where you already actually know how that role works, you know how it needs to be done. There's a lot of systems in place. They're coming into a very sort of stable system. And
right,
so you actually often can benefit from having like more junior people coming in. There's much higher ROI for you potentially. A lot of that is in place. But if you're doing like if the work that you're doing, like the work that you guys are doing, right, it's different every time, like
right.
significantly different every time, even though there's systems and processes in place. Then I think you're really looking for more of a strategist. I mean, I think that from a team building perspective, there's a few things that really come to mind for me. The first is you want to think about when somebody's coming into a role, they need to have to really kill it. Ultimately, to become like a super high performer, they're going to need to really understand the role. They're going to need to understand the company and they're going to need to understand the industry.
Mm,
Sometimes when you have people coming in and they know all those things, then your ability to get them up to speed, firing quickly, delivering a ton of ROI for the company is going to be really quick. I've often gone out and hired people who are not from the industry. They didn't know the industry, they knew the company, but they didn't know the role. So I would have to be a lot more patient. But what I was looking for was like the skill sets that they brought with them.
yeah,
So I think it's really right. So I think in any the biggest thing, just like we know in the sales process, retention is the battle for customer retention is won in onboarding.
yeah.
So they are generally making the decision very quickly if they're going to be a long-term customer. I
Mm,
think the same is true with team,
mm,
that the sort of loyalty conversation is happening in their head during onboarding. And so
mm,
it's really like, have you taken the time to be very clear about what success looks like right off the bat? You
mm.
know, what does success look like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? I find those critical weeks when you're onboarding people and that's really key, especially when you're hiring more senior people, because by day 60, it should be a hell yes. And if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, they got to go. And
Okay.
the only way you can feel confident making that decision is if you had a very clear picture of success going in.
Yeah. The funny thing I found is that there's a big I sound so jaded. There's a big
Hmm.
difference between people who can do the job and think they can do the job. There's a lot of people I've had
Hmm.
that they're like, I've got this. And I'm like, you don't. Like this isn't your
Yeah.
thing. And that's okay, but let's
Their
not.
primary skill set is like talking themselves, is getting a job.
Right. I know that's been really hard with salespeople. I'm like,
So
wait a
hard.
minute.
Oh,
Like
it's so
there's
hard
a
with
whole slew
salespeople.
of salespeople that are just great at sales and they just keep getting
Yes.
new jobs. Um, Talk to me a little bit. You have this concept called the fed up factor.
Hmm.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about that and what that really means or how that might serve people. Yeah, I would love to just hear a little bit about it.
When I think about the fed up factor, I think it's like, it's this idea. Another way to look at it is what are you tolerating?
Mm,
What are you tolerating right now in your business or in your role, or that toleration? Like you've gotten so used to tolerating that, now it's like you've acclimatized yourself to the
mm,
and that's really not helpful for leaders because what we are generally doing, like for a leader to be effective, we have to be light. We're leaning into the future. We are, our energy drives a lot of the results. Like our presence drives a lot of the results that are
yeah.
happening in the company. And that's hard as we're building,
Yeah.
like you're talking about. Like it's hard when we're like putting all these things in place and then you maybe you fill a role and it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Oh my gosh, they weren't right. Now I need to go back out to market again. All of these things that are a reality of business. But the fed up factor is really powerful because I think part of what makes us successful and part of what makes any high performer successful is their grit,
Mm,
right? It's our ability to persevere, to kind of put up with things because we know that if we're able to see this thing through, or we know if we're able just to keep going through this tough spot, we're going to get to a place that's better.
yeah.
The challenge is about the ability to discern, when do I persevere,
Mm-hmm.
and when do I really need to make a change or stop persevering. Or so I think the fed up factor is really critical, where it's like, hey, what am I tolerating right now?
Yeah.
Why am I tolerating this? What's the benefit in tolerating this? And what are some of the alternatives? And how can I kind of either better it, like make it easier for myself to tolerate this thing? Sometimes, in team building, you may find, look, the business doesn't have the cash flow for me to outsource this yet. So I have to suck it up. So I'm going to try to make this experience better. Barter is no, I don't totally can come in and pay someone to do this. And bag it is when you're just like, no, we're just going to stop doing this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting with cash because like there's so many times I've gotten my startup to a place where it's like, all right, our cash flow's stable. I can afford to like train somebody and I really see it show up in my revenue when I'm distracted because I still have a business
totally.
building that can run without my full touch.
Yeah.
My full touch will always be here when it comes to, looking at speeches or stuff like that. But um, how do you play with the concept of masculine versus feminine energy and leadership? Because I
Hmm.
feel like I grew up as a millennial woman in an era of lean in and
Hmm.
girl boss and boss babe. And then lately it's felt very much like lean out, like take care of yourself. And I I find that there's not a lot of like, I don't know if it's because you don't get clicks if you have moderation in your messaging, but it doesn't feel very grounded. And I think the question of like, what does feminine ambition really look like is very alive right now for people. Of like, what does it look like to be like a motivated business person, um, as a leader? So yeah, like, can you talk a little bit about what that really looks like or means for you?
Oh my gosh, totally I can talk about it. So, I mean, uh we've evolved so quickly. Like
Mhm.
really when you think about like traditional roles in society, it's while it's easy to get super frustrated that we might feel that there's gender discriminations and differences that still exist. The reality is you look at sort of humankind, it's the evolution has been really fast. The problem, I think, is that so if you look at like women today, we have more opportunity than ever before. And I think most of us were raised with this notion of like the independent woman, like the girl boss. And it's basically this idea that you can have everything that you want. So it's not like our great grandmothers who could only have certain things. You can have everything you want, but you have to get it all yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really difficult. And I think that's where there's been like this backlash against some of the lean in movement, which I think some people, um, unless you have seen examples of women who really understand how to hold power without apology,
Mm,
how to, right, then you haven't, then it's very difficult to be able to do it yourself.
mm,
And so I'll give you a classic example around this. I remember I was hiring for an executive assistant role. And one of the women that I was interviewing, she had been an executive assistant for her entire career in the UN, actually. She had worked with both, she had both men and women as bosses. And I was
mm.
like, I'm so curious. Tell me the difference.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, it's very clear. The
Okay.
men, yeah, the men would hand off everything. They wouldn't check in. They just delegated. They told me once and it was done. Like they spent time telling me what they wanted. It was done. They totally trusted me to do it. And they delegated much more and much earlier. The women
Wow.
held on to a lot,
Wow. It's a lot of cognitive load that we're keeping and we're choosing.
a ton of cognitive load. I think like that ability to receive help is really key. And so I think sometimes so I think um, the unlock for women is learning how do we have that ambition, see that vision, and really allow ourselves to desire it and want it
Yeah.
without putting the added onus of having to do it all ourselves. That part is interesting because that energy is what we so often label as masculine,
Mm,
but it's actually not masculine.
mm,
Guys, there's a lot of research around this, a huge body of research around delegation. Men delegate a lot more. They actually even spend more time delegating. So, like if I were delegating to you, and the research says if I were a guy, I would spend more time delegating.
wow.
I
Wow.
delegate more. Yeah. The
Oof.
research says women will like spend no time delegating because we're paranoid of being labeled a micromanager. We don't want to be seen as that. So we spend just a little bit of time delegating. And what actually happens is that the result is that sometimes our teams don't actually feel supported. So
Mm,
this is obviously a huge generalization, but it does show up in the research. And I think that's what we're really talking about. What we're really talking about is how do you be a woman who owns power without apology, who's willing to say what she wants without apologizing for it. She's able to give clear direction without pretending like she's on your level or feeling like by exercising her power, she has to now lower her power so that you don't feel threatened by her. This is like a huge area that I think most women who create power through business and so on, we all in some ways reckon with this and figure out how do we do it.
mm. Okay. This is, I also think, you know, society has had very narrow views of what success is. And I imagine you're working with a lot of women in business. Um, I want to first just ask, like, what are you seeing around their beliefs about success? What are you seeing about around their beliefs about life? What would you want to help us change or improve?
Mm, yeah,
And then I want to just actually get to asking you about like getting to that $1 million mark. Like, what are some things that
yeah.
we can actionably do? So, yeah, first question is just like, what are you seeing around the thoughts about what success is or isn't?
I think the biggest thing here is it's about a redefinition of timelines.
Hmm.
So I think for women, there's the traditional markers of success. We want money, specifically financial independence, as a bare minimum. But for when you talk to women about what wealth means, the number one thing that comes back again and again in research that we did specifically around this is freedom.
Mm,
Women want a ton of freedom to be able to do what they want.
mm,
Our brains are sort of wired for broad focus.
mm,
So we like see the whole savannah, like the whole landscape, and we want as much of flexibility as we can,
mm,
to see versus like a lot of like super narrow focus. So I
mm,
think, that kind of freedom is one thing. The ability to create impact, and but what you'll really see for women, especially once they get to their mid 30s, 40s, 50s, is they are measuring success by this concept of expression. Was I able to express who I am and what I am in the world in a full way? I think that's why we see a lot of women leaving the corporate world, because they feel that maybe they can't necessarily express their full gifts there. They want to have a lot of freedom. So that's like a big thing. And then from a timeline perspective, because there's a very real part of many professional women of their working lives where they may feel that they have to take a bit of a professional backseat,
mm,
because they want to be more present with their kids.
Okay, this
Um,
is a great topic because this is me.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's a huge thing. Like
Yeah.
it's bigger than we realize. A couple years ago, I interviewed this woman on my podcast. Her name's Dr. Claudia Golden. So she's an economics professor at Harvard, and she has her expertise is women work, like career and family,
Mm,
and specifically the gender pay gap.
mm,
And she was like, the gender pay gap exists. Like, yes, there's weird managers and weird practices, but the you could handle all of that stuff and the gender pay gap would exist. The
mhm,
gender pay gap exists because in heterosexual couples where they have kids, the they decide as a family like whose work will be more flexible.
Yeah.
because kids are like, they do require, even if you have a full-time nanny, they still require, and it's almost always the woman,
Yeah.
right? It's just how it is. Like, and I get it. And so you make a decision for the well-being of your home that actually has kind of long-term implications on your earning power. Or if it doesn't, you're working, you're like, you're doing both and just, really sucking it up. So it's a huge issue. So I think, to kind of close the loop on that, I do think it's important that we recognize this, but I think it's also important for women to think about their timelines around success. So what Golden is now researching, she was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in
Mm.
economics solo for this work, is how do our careers speed up? Like, a lot of women are continuing to build momentum in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, that they didn't quite have maybe earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And, I feel like the role that you're taking on helping so many women hit that $1 million mark. I love marketing, and I know that anybody listening who's trying to build a business, usually the pain point is that they need more clients. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you. What are some strategies that you love to see people using to get more
Yeah.
clients? What do you want to help people start to consider to get
Hmm.
business, to get leads in, to close more leads,
Yeah.
all of the above? Like, talk to me a little bit about marketing
All
and
right. If there was one thing, if I could
yeah,
like wave my magic wand, if there was like one thing I would do to help more women entrepreneurs break the $1 million mark in sales,
yeah,
it would be to install a robust sales function. Like, you talked
okay,
about building your sales team. So
yeah,
what we know and what the research tells us about women entrepreneurs is we tend to actually be fairly decent at marketing, even when we don't think we're great.
yeah.
Um, where we really are not as strong, even though we're actually as skilled. So only 31% of women business owners set sales targets.
Oh, wow.
And when you, many women entrepreneurs, they will avoid direct selling
Mm,
because they really feel that there's a lot of negative associations related to selling. And I had been seeing this, Ashley, and I was just like, it was driving me crazy. And I was working with clients. I was like, you trust me, please. You have the leads. Can you please just have a more direct sales approach? I'm telling you. So they weren't kind of listening. So I was like, okay, we're going to try something. So I did this thing, and I was working with my existing challenges. I was like, you have to pay me $100, and I'm going to put you in a group. These were already clients I was working with. I just sprung it on them. I was like, you have to pay me $100. And this is because I wanted them to have some skin in the game. I'm like, I'm going to be your sales manager. I'm going to show you how you do this. I will be your sales manager. You need to report to me.
mm.
And I'm going to show you how you build a proper sales function. There was no time to do any marketing. And I wanted to like prove it in their face. I wanted to prove it in their face. I wanted to be like, look, I'm telling you. And I thought, so there was a group of 22 women who did this with me. I thought that they would, I was like, you know what? I totally bet you anything they're going to improve their sales by 30%.
Mm.
So basically, I took their rolling, they had to tell me what their monthly revenue was for each of the 3 months before, and we made that a rolling average for each
Okay.
entrepreneur. And then at the end of those 30 days, so there's no time to market.
Yeah.
It's like, what are your closed sales? The average of those 22 women, the average increase in sales growth was 579%.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that. What do you think the magic was?
Sales, daily
Yeah.
sales. Yeah, literally, it was actually taking sales seriously and not allowing a day to go by where you have not taken tangible steps to open up sales conversations. So the vast majority of people sell through some form of conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like, how many conversations did you actually have today? So generally what happens is when it comes to sales, people overcomplicate.
Mm.
Sales is an activity game. Have you actually connected with people? Have you reached out to people? Have you followed up with people? Have you tried to book appointments with people? Have you called people who opted in for your stuff? Have you connected with people who followed you on social? Most entrepreneurs have so much money in their sales pipeline that they don't even see. It's a crime. It's a crime.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Super passionate about it. And I mean, it's very simple, but it does require that you actually um, that you embrace sales as a strong key growth function in your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some secrets to sales in your opinion of building a good sales team, of doing sales? And are there some business models that you think are important for people to start to think about in regards to that?
I mean, I think that so I have you know, I have tried building sales teams, fired them all. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I've
it's
hired, yeah,
one
sales
of
is
the hardest
hard.
things I've ever done.
It's
What do
really
you
hard.
think it is? Why is it so damn hard? And once you get it, it's like you're in the promised land because now you have humans that can handle leads and turn
Yeah.
them into revenue.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think what happens is that a lot of entrepreneurs, like if you're successful enough to be an entrepreneur who's even thinking about having a sales team,
Yeah.
in general, it means that you personally have a lot of mojo and charisma. Founder mojo is real. And so, because we have this mojo, it allows us to be sometimes a little lazy on sales. Like we just are not as strong. We rely on our charisma a lot to close deals
Yeah.
that other people are not going to have necessarily.
Mm.
Because, so there's a founder charisma thing. So now we have to figure out, how do you replicate the results that you had using a team or other people who are not you?
Yeah.
So I think like that's thing number one. So usually, and that's when things start to fall apart. So you start to
Yeah.
see the founder, their charisma, they have charisma. And so what they don't have generally is a very, very clear sales process. And a sales process, I want you to imagine that you're like navigating people across this rushing body of water.
Mm.
They're in pain. You have a solution, but they have to make this crossing. And so if you don't have a strong sales system, like would you choose a rickety old bridge that has like pieces missing, or would you want the actual like stable bridge? You take
Mm.
the stable bridge. That's a stable sales process. First this happens, then this happens, then this happens. So I think that's like the biggest thing that's usually missing, is that. And then the second part is when you don't have a sales process, you don't know your numbers. And that is really key. So
Mm.
it's like if you don't have a sales process, you don't know how many outreaches have to happen for us to have a sales call,
Mm.
and how many, of what is our conversion rate, on these sales calls, that type of thing. So you can't actually measure if the salesperson is strong or not. And I love salespeople, but there's two kinds. There's one group who are really awesome at selling, and there's another group who are really awesome at selling themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
you're talking about this. And I was just taking notes as you were talking because it's like
Yeah.
I'm very much in the thick of building my sales team out. It's
Yes.
taken me a really long time to have a setter. And for those of you who don't know what
Yes.
a setter is, somebody who filters your leads. So, and it's actually been very empowering. I really don't enjoy building a sales team, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, this is not something I
Which,
find
and I love that you're doing it though. You know what I
doing
mean?
it.
Like, and you're talking so openly about doing it, even though you
Oh
don't like it.
God. I mean, when
Good for you.
I have a new salesperson right now that I really like, and I like almost cried when she started taking calls off of my plate. Um, so I don't enjoy building a sales team, but what I will say is it's probably one of the most empowering things I've ever done as a business owner because if you can learn how to get leads, which in the world of AI, the amount of AI technology, if you just want to talk to AI about how to get leads through AI, it will blow your mind, number one. Number
Yeah.
two, if you have something you believe in and it's a good enough offer, paid ads will work for you, especially if you have a high
Yes.
ticket price. Then you can afford to burn ad spend to get one lead. So the higher the ticket your
Yes.
price, the more you can afford to buy leads. Um, I found that finding a good ads person is terrifying. You either have one or you
Yeah.
don't. There's
Oh,
a
a
guy,
million percent.
yeah, there's a
Distribution, like we're talking about distribution, like the acquisition side of business is the hardest part. I truly believe, as even
it's
as
true.
technical as your offers are, it's so hard.
It's
Yeah.
so hard. You spend a lot of money on getting a customer in. I mean, between my ad spend, my salespeople commissions, I mean, I'm probably out 20% of the entire product before the customer even walks through the door, if not
Yeah.
25% of it.
Yeah.
So, or price point. So, what I have found is that if you ask people in sales, and I don't know if this is interesting to you, Eleanor,
Mm.
a coach told me to once ask, what could a salesperson do on my team that, in your opinion, I should fire them? Listening to
Mm.
what salespeople, and I said it shouldn't be obvious, not like they don't show up for work. What is something you're like, that person has to go? It was
Yeah.
so insightful to hear what different people said to me about why somebody should get the kibosh. One person was like being too financially motivated. I like that answer in the sense where it's like, yeah, you can't just let clients in that are bad clients. But the fact that that was their one answer, it didn't feel like a good answer to me. I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. Salespeople should be financially motivated. They're commission based. So
Yes.
it's gone. Like you're not money. You don't have that grit and that thirst enough.
Hmm.
Another person said not responding to the founder fast enough. Like if you're in charge of revenue and your founder can't even get a hold of you, what are you doing with the leads? I was like, that's somebody I trust.
Yeah.
So it was just like learning what people think. Another person said
Yeah.
phoning it in, like just hitting your metrics, but not like going above. Like so you learn so much about people. And for those of you listening who are thinking about business models, like you buy leads and you close sales. And in between all of that is somebody that filters the leads. If you buy 700 leads, you don't want to take 700 phone calls. That's
Hmm.
somebody in between. That's my setter. Finding
Yeah.
somebody that can filter leads and
Hmm.
financially qualify if somebody would, or should invest in your product is actually a very important role. What are some thoughts you have, Eleanor, of finding the right person for that role?
So we have three people who do that. And to me, the most important thing, it actually starts with, have you defined what a qualified lead is?
Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean? So that like obviously, so that's kind of one thing. I think I like um, so to me, with anybody, who's working with me, it's like integrity. Obviously, it's just huge. Like you have to be able to sort of trust them. So
Yeah.
integrity is really big. There's a genuineness, which I think is important. And that's like an ethos of our whole company. It's like when they connect, do they feel that they're talking to a genuine person who has time and space for them and who sees them as a human in front of them? I think that's another thing. But I'll be honest, I think it's like, do you have a good sales script? So that's
Mm,
like thing number one. Do you have a good sales script? Are they following it? And then, but the plus is, are they then asking good follow-up questions to qualify the need or qualify the urgency or qualify the XYZ? So I think like that's really key. And to me, this is where I have been, my philosophy with this has been that sales, if you are, let me back up a second. So often, if you hire a really experienced salesperson, they cost a lot because they know their numbers and they know they can generate a lot. You know, if you want to bring in people who are earlier stage and really develop them, I do find sales is a place where if you're going to do that, you do have to kind of spend time with them. So, like I spend 90 minutes with my setting team a week. We listen to calls together. We talk about how we would have improved them. If they're not willing to do that, then to me, they would have to go.
mm,
If they're not willing to learn and be developed, because I think sales it's such a sophisticated skill,
yeah.
when you think about it. But to me, it's the script and the ability. And I think it's like the numbers too. So are you handing like, is your salesperson like you decide your closer, what close rate do you want them to maintain? And is that important? Or are you actually more interested in volume? So I
Mm,
think there's two things here, which is like the volume piece, which is where you're moving more people through. And so your closer is they have more volume of calls, and that's how they sort of hit their metrics and grow. Or are you like, we want them to have as few calls as possible and close as many as possible? So we tend to, I think those are the two sort of levers you're playing with when
yeah.
you're kind of building that out. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And let's say right now somebody listening wants to double their revenue. They have a cool offer. The world wants
Yeah.
it. They have salespeople. Maybe they can increase their ad spend, but let's take that off the table because,
Yeah.
what would you say? Go do this week. This is the way to increase revenue.
Oh, so I would probably look at increasing their pricing,
Hmm.
um, upselling inside, like maximum revenue maximization. Can you sell your existing customers something else that's even more expensive? Those would usually be the two things that I'm looking at first, because it's usually like the easiest path. And the third thing I would say would be dial for dollars.
Okay.
Like, it is so insane to me, the just the degree to which so many entrepreneurs do not efficiently harvest the leads that they have. They
Yeah.
literally are sitting on, like, if you called your email list,
Yeah.
just call them.
Yeah.
Hey, this is so and so. You're on my email list. I see you opening. I've never talked to you. I just wanted to connect, find out what made you subscribe in the first place.
Damn.
Like literally dialing for dollars. All the research is very definitive.
Mm.
That's the pathway. So I would probably do those three things in that order.
I love this so much. This has been such a fun conversation to just like you're really meeting me exactly where I am. I kept opening up my tab to take some notes on what you were saying. Just
It was so fun.
Yeah. What have I not asked you before we go that you think everybody should know?
Ooh, I think I think what you haven't asked me is why I'm so passionate about doubling the number of women who scale to 1 million. Like, why 1 million?
Why?
Yeah.
So why is that?
Great question.
You
Oh my
tell.
gosh, great question, Ashley. To me, the reason why is because the massive amount of value that it creates for the woman. So there are totally some $1 million businesses of one, by the way, and those generally are like hardcore marketers who can really drive huge audience growth and have very simple products. But honestly, even then, like, it's not common. But the reason that $1 million, I think, is powerful and a powerful milestone, it's because of who the woman has to become to do it, and what she has to create in her business. So many women will work their entire careers having great businesses that made them great money, and they don't actually have an asset at the end of it that's valuable. So the biggest payday of their entire life, which is often when an entrepreneur exits a business, they don't get it. So they get paid, but they don't get the wealth generation and the assets. They get paid on their labor, not on their asset. And I think that if we could start having more women getting paid on their assets, they have businesses that they can sell that are highly valuable to somebody else, that would really start to shift some of the earning differentials that we see. And it creates an immense amount of, financial power. And I know that when women earn, we all win. We know that 90% of women recirculate their wealth back into women recirculate as much as 90% of their wealth back into their communities compared to 35% for men. So we want women having access to money.
Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Such a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions, head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we can help you craft your greatest talk of your life, how we can help you get booked on some of the biggest stages in the world, even the TED or TEDx stage. We'd love to hear from you, and that's it for this week.
Stupid. 'Cause I can try and make you mine. Wish I can try and make you mine. But I don't think you like us. To the puzzle that I'm trying to solve, always think you know it all, but thinking about you up against that wall. This too late, I fell in love, we fall. Holding ground, no words. I'm holding ground, no words. Holding ground, no words. Late night drive, what you trying to do tonight? I swear you don't even try, yeah, you still look stupid fine. Wish I can try and make you mine. like guys, I don't think I should try. I guess it's time to give up, but I don't wanna give up, give up, give up. No, 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 no. Scrolling through my phone today, I saw a photo of you. Really thought that I'd deleted all the photos of you. Forgot how it felt just to be normal with you. Forgot how I felt till I saw you with that late night drive. What you tryna do tonight? I swear you don't even try. Yeah, you still a stupid fine. Wish I can try and make you mine, but I don't think you like guys. Late night drive. What you tryna do?